Welcome to the 7th Blue Forge Group Monthly Open Mic. My name is Maxwell DeMarco. I'm an artisan working with 3 of Blue Forge Group's 4 divisions and a full-time on-site volunteer. Blue Forge Group is an entirely volunteer-run 501c3 nonprofit founded in 1989 to educate and empower artisans who've been marginalized by the mainstream. Our artisans couldn't be more different. They might not always get along on social media, but when they gather under the Blue Forge name, the art always comes first. Tonight, we'll hear from artisans from Blue Forge Films, Blue Forge Gaming, and Blue Forge Press. They'll each step into the spotlight of the Black Box Studio here on the Blue Forge campus and earn this month's Open Mic Badge, created by illustrator and actor Faith DeMarco. Without further ado,
hi, my name is Jennifer DeMarco. I have volunteered full-time for Blue Forge Group since 1989, and I work with all 4 divisions: Blue Forge Press, Blue Forge Films, Blue Forge Sound, and Blue Forge Gaming. Today, actually, I wanted to read a little piece that I actually wrote about the company, and I thought that might be kind of fun to kind of celebrate Blue Forge, which is an organization that I'm incredibly proud of and honored to be an artisan working with them. For this occasion, I thought that I would wear my Blue Forge Group jersey. It's got an 89 on it because Blue Forge Group was founded in 1989. It took a long time and no time at all, just like a lifetime. Those words come from a story I wrote on my 50th birthday. The same month, Blue Forge Group turned 34. That was 3 years ago. We've been through a lot together. My family and I have donated more than $100,000 and contributed more than 100,000 volunteer hours. Our greatest success at Blue Forge Group is the extraordinary diversity of our artisans. And our greatest failure is that most people, including our artisans, still don't know what Blue Forge does. Blue Forge Group exists to educate and empower artisans marginalized because of race, age, disability, religion, sexual orientation, or economic status. We support actors, authors, filmmakers, musicians, and game designers. We help them escape or avoid the pay-to-play dangers of creative industries and adapt to the constant changes of those industries. Blue Forge itself does not make art. We give people permission to make art when the world has told them, you don't have time, there's no place for you, art isn't for people like you. But art isn't a luxury. It doesn't belong only to the wealthy or only to those who suffer. Art is hope, and hope is the infrastructure upon which everything else is built. Opportunity begins with hope. Creating art with Blue Forge gives overlooked artisans meaningful work, safe community, dignity, self-worth, and the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to improve. Most organizations ask, how do we help people today? But we also ask, how do we ensure they'll still be heard tomorrow? Blue Forge Group exists to bear witness. We preserve the evidence that an artisan was here. We work to ensure that an artisan's inner life, their creative work, does not disappear when their physical life does. A poem, a book, a song, a game, or film, they all say, I was here. They are all evidence of a life lived, a creative spark, We help artisans feel seen. We help them feel heard. And we ensure they'll be remembered, not famous, not rich or revered, remembered. Blue Forge Group exists to ensure that when a person's lifetime becomes no time at all, something beautiful remains behind, something that can whisper across the years, I was here, so that someone, decades or even centuries later, will quietly answer, I know.
Hello, my name is Catherine Hewlett, and I am a children's book author, and I have chapter books and picture books, and they are done through Blue Forge Press. And today I'm going to share the blurb and a chapter out of my book, Juicy Words. Zelia is always running, spinning, and bursting with excitement. Sitting still is almost impossible. Sometimes her big energy gets her into trouble, but more than anything, Zelia wants a friend. So when a moving van arrives across the street, Zelia can barely contain herself. Maggie is a gentle girl who is visually impaired and uses a white cane to explore the world. Maggie may not see with her eyes, but she notices everything else, from the softest sounds to the most delicious juicy words. At first, Zelia's fast-moving world and Maggie's careful pace don't always match. There are mix-ups, hurt feelings, and important lessons about listening. But as they face new challenges together, the girls discover that their differences just might be their greatest superpowers. Chapter 6. Dreams Do Come True. Maggie invited Zelia for a birthday sleepover. Zelia could hardly wait. She skipped over, rang the doorbell, and started singing, "Happy Birthday!" at the top of her lungs. When Maggie opened the door, Zelia grabbed one of her hands and put her gift bag into it. She jumped up and down and chanted, "It's your birthday! It's your birthday!" Maggie's mom took the gift and told the girls to go see if her dad is done setting up the tent in the front room. It was a tradition to do indoor camping on Maggie's birthday every year, and this year would be no different. After they rolled out their sleeping bags, the girls played games, and Maggie blew out her number 8 candle so they could eat the peanut butter pie. Maggie took a bite. "This is absolutely delectable, my favorite." Zelia jumped up. "Let's open presents." She handed Maggie the gift bag she brought. Maggie reached inside. Ooh, big eyes and 4 legs. A new stuffy. She pulled it out and felt the shape with her fingers. A frog! She gave Zelia a hug. "I am honored to have you bestow such an ideal gift upon me." Zelia laughed. "More juicy words. I don't even know what some of those words mean." "It means thank you for the awesome present," Maggie said. "We can go find the best spot to put it later." Maggie opened a few gifts from her mom and dad until there was only one gift left. Maggie reached inside the gift bag and pulled out a bowl with a word written in Braille. Zelia thought that was kind of a weird present, but Maggie's parents seemed super excited about it. "It says Kauai," her dad blurted out. Maggie still looked confused. Maggie's mom finally explained. "A year ago, I secretly put your name on a list to get a companion dog. They finally have a dog that is believed to be a good match." "A dog? I'm finally having my lifelong dream come true," Maggie squeaked. Zelia grabbed her hands, and both girls jumped up and down. She had never heard Maggie shriek so loudly. When they finally settled down, Maggie's mom continued, "His name is Kauai. He is 3 years old and will be your companion dog, not a guide dog." "What does companion mean?" Zelia asked. "It kind of means a friend," Maggie answered. "That's right," Maggie's mom said. "He will be here to help you calm your fears and stay by your side, but you will still have to use your white cane." Zelia was happy for Maggie, but inside she was a little worried for herself. If Maggie had a new dog friend, would she still need Zelia? That's it.
Hi, my name's Brianne DeMarco, and I write under the nom de plume Brie Indigo. I work primarily with Blue Forge Press and Blue Forge Films, though sometimes I'd say with all the divisions. I love everything Blue Forge. Today I'm going to be reading from my story in Nightfall, which is one of the Unnerving anthologies, which is a horror anthology, so that is your warning. It may be a little violent, it may be a little gory. If you're not into that, feel free to skip me. I don't mind. But I am actually really proud of this story because it is historical fiction, which is something I don't typically write. So that's all the preamble I'll give you, but here it is. This is called Dear Diary. August 1st, 1892. I finally mustered the courage to return home today. Emma came right back when we arrived in Fall River after our New Bedford vacation, as Father and the missus called it. I don't know for how much longer I can stand to live in this house with them. The missus served some old bland mutton, sat out on the stove for heaven only knows how long. Emma and I refused to eat it, her more graciously than I, and no surprise, to me at least, both she and Father took ill shortly after. I told her it looked disgusting, and she offered to ask Maggie to fry some poultry for me. Gold-digging hedge creeper. She knows I'm still plagued with the nightmares of blood dripping down the walls of my sweet angel's coop. That horrid man will burn in hell for the slaughter of those innocent souls. I'm shaking just thinking of it. Father said the pigeons would draw youths into the barn, but I know it was merely an excuse to take something from me. He doesn't dare permit mirth in his domain, and those little birds were the bright spot in my day that he just could not stand. 32 years on this earth. And this is the life I'm destined for? I must stop writing. Father won't permit the purchase of any more candles this year, and we must save them for the winter. All his wealth, and still we have no electricity. I grow wary of this frigid, frugal life. August 2nd, 1892. There may be some small joys in this life. The afternoon found Bridget and I alone, and it is inexplicable the way her company makes me feel. I never understood what Emma was speaking of when she confessed of her nervousness around a certain man, the feeling of butterflies trapped in her chest, her heart fluttering and causing her to stumble over her words when he was near. I'd never felt that with any of the schoolboys I grew up around, nor the few suitors who dared approach Father when I came of age. But when I'm with Bridget, it is like Easter Sunday when the morning sun finds the church window and you can feel the Holy Ghost shining down on us all as we sing our hymns of praise. Something fills my spirit when her eyes find my own, when her hand grazes mine. It is as I imagined flying would feel. She is my reprieve from this hostile home, my secret sanctuary. That insipid cow Abby accused me of poisoning her and Father. I told her she looked hardly alive, so why would I bother? If anyone has poisoned them, it's Father's frugality and her insistence that the mutton was perfectly fine. How dare she point her finger at me? It was her hand that stirred the mutton pot, figuratively. Besides, half of Fall River has reason to poison Father, which he brought up just last night. Perhaps Emma and I should be happier that he has, mostly, refused to sell to us. He seems to double-cross everyone he deals with. Speaking of, Mother's brother John arrives tomorrow. Hopefully Father will not swindle him too badly. I find that, despite myself, I am somewhat fond of him, if not only because he is a reminder of Mother. God rest her soul. August 3rd, 1892. The shrieks of pigeons filled my dreams, their panicked cries and frantic wings beating against the interior of my skull, a violent cacophony of fear and blood and pain. I watched them from above, helpless and frozen, until I broke free, but found that I was one of them. I saw flashes of Father's face coming at me, the axe swinging and finally finding its purchase, slicing through my neck. I watched my avian body fall from the loft as my screams fell silent and my vision began to fade. I woke with a migraine this morning that refuses to abate, each pulse a painful reminder of the nightmare that preceded it. I resent him deeply. I dare think I hate the man. I find it more and more difficult to remember any redeeming quality or memory associated with him, and soon I fear there will be no love left in my heart, for him or otherwise. He has blackened my soul with this hate. Uncle John arrived late this morning, but Father has kept him busy all day. Selfish, loathsome man. August 4th, 1892. Something horrific has happened. Father is dead. Do I dare write the word? Murdered. And his wife. The day is a jumble and everything feels out of order. I will write down everything I remember. My head is still spinning from the morphine and so many queries from so many people. The police barraged me with question after question, even as my head pounded like an axe had been lodged in my skull rather than Father's. There are flashes of faces, Dr. Bowen, Emma, and sweet Bridget's face filled with horror when she saw Father dead on the couch. Father, his head split nearly in two, his lifeless body splayed on the couch where he slept this morning. Abby, her limbs splayed at odd angles, the back of her head a thick bloody mess matted with hair, blood, and bone fragments. My hands, sticky with blood, shaking in front of me. The sweet satisfaction as the blade of the axe found its purchase, over and over again, each swing filled with retribution. No, I must not allow these crimson thoughts to remain. I will purge them from my mind and burn them with the dress and these pages. They will burn, just as Father and Abby both burn in eternal hellfire. And I will forget. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41.
I'm Pauline Ugalde, an artisan for Blue Forge Press and the director of the audio adaptation of Thesis for Blue Forge Sound. For my July 2026 open mic presentation, I'm covering a particular aspect of the world building for writing the novella for Thesis. In particular, how I originally set this novella and the planned series after it during 2023 rather than 2024. The final version available for purchase takes place in 2024 instead. Before I get started though, I'm announcing that we are fundraising $1,000 to compensate the 16 voice actors for the audio adaptation of Thesis. Our stretch goal is $1,200 to cover the associated fees with the production. You can donate to support the audio adaptation of Thesis at either tiny.cc/thesis-ugalde, Ugalde being spelled UGALDE, or at blueforgegroup.org/the sound of Thesis with hyphens between each of the words. The most pressing concern with the novella for Thesis taking place in 2023, specifically during the summer and fall of 2023, were the SAG-AFTRA strikes, where writers, actors, voice actors, and other personnel for film and television all went on strike to protest several issues, including the use of generative AI in their work, and compensation that they argue they rightfully deserved that they weren't receiving after the works that they helped produce went to streaming services. I realized that the main cast of Thesis would want the events that happened to them to reach as wide an audience as possible and as favorable an audience as possible. However, because a large proportion of late-night TV personalities and their personnel went on strike during this time, most of this favorable audience and hosts in the broadcast TV space just weren't available to them. In spite of the fact that they grew up using social media and have a social media presence, they know that the most widely used medium in the United States is television, so that's why I thought that they would reach out to these people. Instead, they needed to find alternatives to the group of late-night talk show hosts who call themselves the Strike Force 5, aka Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, and John Oliver. In particular, while the strike was going on, I kept track of which hosts were on the air in spite of the strikes, and I monitored the structure of in-person events that the characters could talk about their experiences at, in particular those taking place on college campuses. The second consideration regarding having Thesis and the subsequent books take place in 2023 instead of 2024 was regarding planning around the fact that I couldn't reference events that took place after 2023 in this book. This includes both in-story aspects, like having characters reference terminology or even having characters be killed in ways that at the latest took place before 2023 and not afterward. Most notably, there's a character early on in Thesis who, in the final draft, where the novella takes place in 2024, is killed via a Julie saw, which is the method of death for a character in Saw X. However, this film released in September 2023, which is 3 months after Thesis takes place. In the 2023 draft, this character was killed via an ink ribbon from a typewriter that was improvised into a garrote by the person who killed them. And even in the 2024 draft, I was able to reference the Geely saw because the main character who saw footage of this kill happen could identify it by name.
Hello, my name is Marshall Miller. I'm here with Blue Forge Press, and they published a series called the T'Challa Infestation series for me. And basically what I'm reading from today is a prequel. And the whole series is based on the fact that an intelligent cephalopod, i.e. octopoid type of alien species, comes to Earth because we taste good. But they're not bug-eyed monsters, they're very highly developed creatures. And of course, they also managed to get some humans to also help them in the nefarious, well, we consider nefarious, and basically all they're thinking of us is like cattle, that we taste good. So anyway, just a prequel involving some young adults who got trapped in the very beginning stages of the invasion. And they've now managed to escape to a air base in the middle of Montana called Malmstrom Air Base, which does exist. And that's where the, I guess you'd start calling them the freedom fighters, are trying to get there and get organized so they can resist the invasion. And that's where this starts. 1 o'clock, Camilla, Matt, James, and Janice were at the wing headquarters building. Emily was with a tutor counselor who was dealing with the whole dad's missing subject. The sergeant had convinced the three youngsters to dress in the best clothes they had, which was pretty good thanks to the largesse of strangers when they first arrived on Maelstrom. They were escorted into the wing briefing room as if they were dignitaries. When she saw Agent Lear sitting with the ranking commanders, she knew why. This could be a good thing or a bad thing, she thought. Camilla whispered to James as they were led to the seats. Answer just what they ask, simply. No pontifications. James nodded yes. General Samuel Smith was a senior officer. To his right was a General Reed who looked like he had a brand new set of stars on his shoulders. Battlefield promotion? Could be, with so many of the military killed in the last few days. My God, Camilla thought. Just over a week, and it seemed like forever. Sitting in the same area as Camilla and others was a man with Hollywood good looks and a Marine Corps with gunny uniform. Excuse me, and a Marine Corps uniform with gunny stripes and a fruit salad that went all the way up to his chest. Damn, she thought. He's been around for being so young looking. After all the required introductions, pomp and circumstance, they got down to the nitty-gritty. General Smith laid the groundwork. We asked you to come here, especially you civilians, as you are some of the first survivors to have personal contact with the enemy. Or should I say, enemies. We have Marine Corps Gunny Sergeant Torben Bender, U.S. Air Force Technical Sergeant Camille Sanchez, and her 3 companions, Matthew Bearclaw, James Richards, and Janice Richards. Please allow me to express my condolences, as I know all of you have lost family members these first few days. Based on the limited information we have so far, millions more will be lost, primarily in the coastal areas. The general continued. Because of the high casualty rate, we are working against a time clock never faced before in the history of the world. But we could easily reach the point where major governments break down all at once, and civilization as we know it grinds to a halt. General John Reed, you just barely made it out of Washington, D.C. Can you tell us what was happening worldwide? The former United States Air Force pilot sat for a moment before speaking. D.C. is gone. There's a harvester ark on the White House lawn. Those wheeled robots are grabbing and butchering people by the thousands. There was murmuring among the people seated around the significant participants. Noticing this, General Reed motioned to Marine Gunnery Sergeant. Gunnery Sergeant Bender, you survived a counterattack on the Yuma overpass and the destruction of the harvester ark. Can you explain what you saw before you blew the craft up? General, it was a huge mobile slaughterhouse. Human slabs of meat hung everywhere. Somebody, probably a local official, cried out, "This can't be happening." "It is." "And to children," replied Gunny Bender. Somebody left the meeting in a hurry. The thought of kids being eaten by outer space creatures did not set well with lunch. Technical Sergeant Sanchez. "Yes, General Smith." Camilla stood up as she spoke, trying to calm the butterflies in her stomach. Public speaking was not her foray. "You and your compatriots killed a couple of these squids close up. What say you about the enemy?" "Sir, they are intelligent and dangerous predators who look on us as prey, but pump enough bullets into them and they bleed and die like everything else. Bluish blood, but blood nevertheless." There was some positive comments. The word payback was heard. "Sir, may I speak?" It was James. Camilla thought, "Oh, great," and tried to stare him down, but he ignored her. "You are James Richards, are you not?" General Smith said. "Yes, sir." "So you were with Sergeant Sanchez?" "Yes, sir. Richards Raiders." James' comment led to some light laughter. But that was probably a good thing, though, Camilla thought as she sat down. At least she hoped. "Well, son, what would you like to add?" James took a deep breath, then let it out. He scanned the room with the eyes that seemed to see everything. Then he began to speak. "General, my father and mother died for my sister Janice and I. They died fighting alien robots like out of some science fiction movie, but it was no movie. Then Matthew Bearclaw, he said, motioning to Matt. He came along and saved us also. The 3 of us fled Darrington, Washington. We made our way away from the vast harvester ark that had landed and took our parents. Then we met the late Forest Service employee Sally Card. She helped us get away from the Deltas, Falcons, alien craft things and their capabilities. But we made it. Dodged the squids." James paused, swallowed, and began again. "Then when we thought we were being saved, and when Sergeant Sanchez came along in a Black Hawk helicopter with a bunch of other PJs, then the unthinkable happened." James scanned the room again. "Other humans shot down the Black Hawk. Humans were helping the Tashaw harvest and butcher us. The leader said they did it for sex, money, and power. humans helping aliens eat us. What can be more second evil than that? The T'Shaw see us as cattle, meat, as we look at the animals we eat. We are not evil because we eat flesh. It is part of our evolution. But what is evil is a human helping another creature eat one of their own, forcing people like me to kill those humans to survive. James paused as if in thought, then continued. We need to fight the T'Shaw to convince them that it is not worth it to try and eat us. But to me, as important as that is to eradicate the renegade humans who help the squids to harvest us. To me, that is an even greater evil. James sat down. There were a few claps, more murmurs. The young man makes a very valid point. For we have had acts of sabotage on this base. Humans begin to distrust each other even more than they have in the past. Thus, we have another front to deal with. Camilla wished James had not spoken when he did. It removed the emphasis on all those who started the problem in the first place. If not for the squids, there would be no renegade humans. Take the T'Shaw out, and the renegades lose their power.
Hello, my name is Thomas Mengert. I am the author of The Confessions of Sherlock Holmes, and it is done through Blue Forge Press. That is my association with the company, and it involves a retelling of the Sherlock Holmes tales, and this is from Volume 1, The Wager at Reichenbach Falls. And the scene that I will be reading from, Holmes has been assigned a bodyguard while he tours around the world seeking the meaning of life. And his tour guide is essentially a figure from the original tales called Colonel Sebastian Moran. This is an extract from Holmes's diary. May 30th, 1891, the Atlantic Ocean. We sailed through the Straits of Gibraltar just after dawn. The sea acted as a great sluiceway, and the vessel sailed out with the withdrawing tide. The mighty rock hung over the ship in the melting mists as we favored the Spanish side to avoid the Barbary pirates. I was on deck and staring over the rail when suddenly the colonel was at my side. He had approached with the stealthiness of a great cat, and only the sudden advent of his shadow alerted me to his presence. "Magnificent, is it not?" the colonel remarked. I can still recall viewing it as a lad when I made my grand tour of the continent. I was just out of Oxford and seeking my way. I had taken a first at Oxford in Oriental languages, and I thought to go into the State Department and be seconded to some embassy or other, but the idea of transcribing dull diplomatic correspondence did not appeal to me. I had read Lermontov, as did so many of my generation. It was he who stirred my romantic blood. I wanted to be a soldier. I dreamed of routing Cossacks and wedding a princess of the Caucasus with dark eyes and Circassian skin. He sighed. But you see me today, sunburned by tropic suns, a bachelor, and put to the indignity of acting as guide to a laconic Baker Street dreamer and police adjutant. That was our introduction. Though his words were insulting, he smiled, and I sensed at once something of the charm of the man. He was of medium height, but immensely strong, clean-shaven, but with a massive cleft chin. His teeth looked as though he could gnaw bones, yet for all his fierceness there was a certain reflective quality in him that surprised me. "You left England shortly after the professor?" I inquired. "Yes, we took different routes. I crossed the continent from Hull and proceeded via The Hague to Paris, then Strasbourg, and finally through Switzerland to Italy. I met with the professor after you parted from him, and we arranged that I was to keep you in sight. And since an absurd game of hide and seek would be unseemly, since you have known, if I would be following you, we decided I am to act in the open and affirmative capacity of being your guide." "You do not resent such a role?" I smiled. "I am always happy when I am traveling, and the professor assures me that you will prove an interesting companion. Mr. I believe the name that you are going under is Sigerson," he replied. "Thank you, Colonel. Well then, our first destination is northern India after we land in Bombay. Then perhaps it is as well that we discuss the Hindu mind before we land, since this is your first trip to India. The Hindu mind is quite comfortable with two ideas, a multiplicity of gods and a cosmic inscrutability. It is not law-based, it has no abhorrence of images, nor is it burdened with comprehending the mind of God or the purpose of things. The Hindu learns to accept life upon its own terms as a given. There is no linear relation to time. Hinduism expects eternal duration and embraces easily the lack of control of man over the cosmos. No eternal seat of judgment awaits us, but rather a daily adjustment and placation of the forces of life. There is an essential lyricism to the Hindu relation to Brahma. I trust that you've read the Rig Veda, the ancient hymns. If not, then I advise you to do so, and the Upanishads as well. You will find a far more sophisticated concept of the ultimate than the prosaic war god of the Hebrews. I'm surprised to hear you say so knowledgeable of the tenets of my faith, Colonel Moran. No doubt you think of me as an unprincipled scoundrel, Holmes. I have my own principles. I would be interested to hear your philosophy, I replied. I desire a just world by any means humanly attainable, to make it so. Like the murder of Mrs. Stewart of Lauder, for instance, I asked pointedly. The colonel was silent for some time before saying, "Shall I put a case before you?" "Pray proceed." "Imagine not a single obnoxious old woman, but picture a great disembodied force that results in the death of thousands. It is mindless but intrusive into the very home lives of the poor. See the bodies of children dead in the first dawn of life, so that this mechanism can send riches to some great central node. Now imagine that the process may not be disassembled. It can, though, be stopped at the center, not by a war involving any number of inane strategic decisions with the price of young lads dead who will never personally benefit from the war. By the death of one person could change everything. That node of distribution and acquisition, and she not innocent, mind you, but collaborative in every way with these evils. May cease to work its evils if we stop her. Is that murder? Or is war the only war that may be claimed to be a truly just war? All of this is very clean and pat in the way you state it, I said to him. And by doing so, I saved thousands of lives, he answered calmly. Surely the net gain justifies the crime. But in any case, I played by the same rules as she had always done, and her husband before her. She had long since committed herself to live by force alone and not by mercy, not dreaming that she would meet one equal to the forces that surrounded her, and guaranteed that her own pillage would be seen as respectable and justified. He who lives by the sword shall perish by the sword. Is that not somewhere in the Gospels, Holmes?
Thank you for joining us for the 7th Blue Forge Group monthly open mic event. This video was filmed live on July 26, 2026, and made possible by viewers just like you. Find out more about everything we do and how you can support an inclusive, nonpartisan, art-centric nonprofit at www.blueforgegroup.org.